Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include Capital One, offering their premium travel card, Venture X. What's in your wallet? Terms apply. Details at CapitalOne.com. And listeners like you who donate to this NPR station.
Funding for This Is Nashville comes from you, our listeners. And Vanderbilt's Master of Liberal Arts and Science program, offering a variety of interdisciplinary evening courses with flexible scheduling for working professionals and lifelong learners. Now accepting applications. Details at vanderbilt.edu/MLAS.
I'm LaTanya Turner, and this is Nashville. We have some interesting break room and hallway conversations here at WPLN. Sometimes it's about the news. Other times it's things you'd never hear us talk about on air. And in the last year or so, one topic that has some of us women sharing and comparing notes, it's how our bodies are changing with age. We have sort of a cohort for those of us experiencing perimenopause and menopause, and our stories reflect the good, the bad, and the ugly about women's midlife health. So today we start this episode by sharing our journeys, talking out loud on air about the season of life when monthly periods end for many of us and other, let's say, signs begin. This episode is part of Season 2 of our NextAge series, which is made possible by BlueCross BlueShield of Tennessee and the West End Home Foundation, advancing aging with dignity and strengthening communities. Joining me for this segment are three of my amazing coworkers that I want to welcome. Nina Cardona, who's well known to listeners as our morning edition host.
Hi, LaTanya.
Hi, Nina. Jude Mason, the midday host at our sister station for Discovery Music, WNXP.
Hey.
Hey, Jude. And Lee Mayo, account manager in our sponsorship department. Welcome, ladies.
Hello.
This is going to be an interesting conversation. We're taking it from the break room to air. And let me just give a couple of housekeeping things. We're mainly going to use common gender-specific words like woman, girl, she, her pronouns for this conversation. But I want to recognize that some persons may use different identities than the gender and pronouns we use. Also, we're going to be discussing body parts, bodily functions, and sexual health. So if you have younger listeners with you, you may want to tune in.
Then you're welcome.
Yes. Tune in later. You can watch us on YouTube, and you can go to our podcast. And ladies, I have a fan for all of us.
This is what we all need.
I love it. A curious Nashville fan. And I did turn down the AC, so we can be comfortable as we talk.
That's why I'm actually cold. I'm not hating it, but it's okay for once.
It's nice to be cold every now and then.
It's nice to be cold.
Or in concept.
Yes. So I mentioned the good, the bad, and the ugly. And I guess we'll start with the good in terms of our stories. And Nina, you and I have talked about this quite a bit. And I think we feel like we kind of got the golden ticket, I guess, compared to some other people on this journey.
Yeah, I definitely, when I compare my own experience to a lot of other women, I feel like my symptoms are kind of like a 4 or 5 on a scale of 10. Now, to be fair, I had a really rough go with gynecological health as a younger person.
Okay.
So maybe
it's karmic. You feel like you've earned it. Yeah.
Or maybe I was actually thinking this after the last time that we talked, that maybe that has adjusted my how I perceive how things feel now. But yeah, that's kind of where I stand in that.
Okay. And for me, hindsight is 20/20, you know, and I look back and I think I was going through it and didn't really realize it because I was a sandwich person, had teenagers and young people at home. I was taking care of my mom, and there was nothing that really registered that was more stressful than some of those things. But I look back and I'm like, oh, yeah, I remember periods starting to get a little weird, and I'd always been very regular and having dry skin and dry eyes and a little hair loss. So, but overall, I still think it's better than most. And that brings us to the bad.
Hi, my name is Jude Mason.
And Jude is great, even if menopause is bad.
Yes, that is no reflection on Jude, but her experience was very different. Tell us about it.
My experience has been very different, but interestingly, I have always also struggled with menstrual symptoms from when I was a teenager. I didn't get my period until I was 14, so I was relatively late. But then, good golly, Miss Molly, did it hit in full. So I have passed out and thrown up on every form of public transport in London. Oh, wow. When I was on my period, I was once feeling so bad sitting outside a railway station at Vauxhall that somebody came up and tried to give me money because they thought I was homeless.
Oh, my goodness.
Because I looked that bad, having thrown up on the platform upstairs. And then I didn't have my own child until I was in my late 30s. And then by the time I was 45, I was talking to my doctor about saying, I think I'm in perimenopause. And they were taking my levels and saying, no, it's all very normal, because of course, everybody thinks this is the window for normal. But I know now from my sister in the UK and I both realizing our levels of hormones were way higher than the average. And so my starting perimenopause looked like everybody else's normality, because it was, and it didn't matter what I said.
And it's also individual.
It is individual.
It's so individual.
And I knew I had sometimes my periods would be 13 days apart. Sometimes they would be 56 days apart. And I wouldn't know. And doubling down on all the protection and still, bleeding through. It's just insane, and feeling terrible and night sweats, and then realizing you have ADHD because that was never diagnosed when you were a kid as well. So it's all the things, the brain fog, the parenting, and trying to hold down a job at the same time.
Yeah.
You just feel crazy.
Well, thank goodness mine wasn't quite that bad, but you weathered the storm.
I have weathered the storm. I have weathered the storm when I finally got people to listen to me. So,
yeah. We always listen to you, Jude.
Well, I mean, medical professionals.
Yes, and we're going to get to that in a minute. But now we want to talk about the ugly, and it has nothing to do with our beautiful coworker, Lee.
Oh, I was the ugly. Okay, I'm
the
the
good,
ugly.
the bad, and the ugly.
Well, the sweaty.
I tell you what,
the good, bad, and the sweaty.
Let's call it, instead of the ugly, the really, really, really bad.
Okay, yeah, okay.
Lee, tell us about yours.
So, again, hindsight, and I didn't, you don't realize it along the way, but when I was in perimenopause, I was diagnosed as being bipolar. And I was put on 3 medications, 2 of which were incredibly sedating. So I spent, probably 8 years of my life trying to stay awake.
And let me just ask you, Jude said she told the doctor she was in perimenopause. You didn't know what was going on, and they just said, "Oh, you're bipolar."
Yes, this was a long time ago, and I had both a female psychiatrist and a female gynecologist, and so I thought, well, I'm covered. They're going to know what's going on. And yes, diagnosed as bipolar, and the medications that I was placed on, one put you at risk for dementia. Didn't know that until after I'd been on it for 7 years. So, I was just rolling with it because I was a mom of 2 younger children. I was very, very busy.
Because you believe the experts.
Of course.
Yes. And
she was
because
a
we
female.
don't know, we didn't grow up knowing the range of symptoms,
Mm-hmm.
right?
And our
all
mothers
I
didn't
remember
talk
ever
about
hearing
it.
about was hot flashes, because it mostly wasn't talked about. It mostly was just the change, whisper, 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 whisper,
Right.
hot flash, whisper, whisper, whisper. And that was it. I had no idea that brain fog was part of it. I had no idea that it wasn't
Dry
just
skin.
hot flashes, but
Itchy
night
ears.
sweats, waking up at odd times in the night for absolutely no reason. All these things. I had no idea that was part of menopause.
My anxiety was extra spicy.
Yeah.
I mean, it just,
Same.
came out of nowhere and just kind of took over. But
And I think it's interesting that you specifically told me you specifically chose female doctors because you thought, okay, I know this is an area that
we share the same parts.
Right.
They should know what's going on.
Right.
Right.
But they spend 3 minutes in medical school doing
Right.
that. And but can I ask a question, which is, so was that a misdiagnosis?
Yes, absolutely.
And so now you're not on bipolar medication, and
Correct.
wow,
Just HRT.
Lordy, I'm so sorry.
It was a lot. It was a
Yeah.
lot. But, I learned quite a bit about mental health disorders. But no, and then I, went through the process of breaking up with my psychiatrist and breaking up with my gynecologist.
It's not me,
and
it's
starting
you.
all new. Yeah, starting all new.
Before we talk about that, I just want to remind folks that if you're just tuning in, this is Nashville, and I'm your host, LaTanya Turner. We're talking about menopause, the change, with some of my fabulous colleagues here at WPLN. And you can also see us live on our YouTube stream and chime in with your own thoughts. We'd love to hear from you. youtube.com/WPLN. Let's go into healthcare and hormones. And each of you has a different thought about that from what you've told me. Let's start with you, Lee, because tell us how you reconcile what you had been told before about being bipolar with, okay, this is not right, and being told, okay, you need to go on estrogen.
So, Instagram to the rescue, which is, I'll never say again, surely. Dr. Mary Claire Haver. I came across her on Instagram and I was like, holy cow, wait, I was in perimenopause when I got diagnosed. And so I started going back and putting the pieces together. And then I read that she said that happens often. And so I didn't feel quite so strange that it happened to other people. So I got a new doctor, and I started off by she gave me low-dose estrogen, and I cried all day, every day on the estrogen. And
you were still taking the bipolar meds?
Yes. Okay. And she had, my list of meds. She knew what I was on, but gave me the low-dose estrogen. So I went on vacation with my family and just cried for a week. Came back and I was like, I don't really think this is going to work for me. Maybe I can't, And so my psychiatrist answer was, well, do you really need to be on estrogen? And so I said, goodbye.
Yep.
And I found a new doctor.
Okay.
And now I'm on HRT and, things are much better.
And not the bipolar meds.
Correct.
Okay.
No, yeah.
Jude?
I was put on antidepressants. So the first thing I went on was antidepressants. And I'd been on antidepressants one other time years and years ago and had managed to come off. But I was just like, I just can't cope anymore. It's too much. So I went back on antidepressants. And it was only when that kind of settled some things, but it was making my hot flashes were so bad. I was getting like 10 a day. And if you've never experienced a hot flash, you know that feeling when you think you're going to vomit and your whole body breaks out in a cold sweat, and it starts from like your thighs, your tummy, and goes out and you get dizzy.
Or that tingly heat.
It's that exact feeling, but with heat instead of cold. And that was 10 times every day, and you can't think of anything else. It's just unbelievable. My hot flashes were so bad, my night sweats were so bad, and in the end I went back and I said, I want to go on HRT. And I went on HRT, and overnight they switched off, and I then downed I'm still on SSRIs, but I downed it a little bit, but it made such a huge difference. And then ADHD meds, and now I'm a whole new woman.
That's amazing. A whole new season
Better
of life.
living through chemistry.
Nina, I know you have different thoughts.
Well, no, I wouldn't say I have different thoughts. I'm more in a different place.
Yeah.
Because I am so happy that HRT is doing great things for both of you. And I'm so happy that it is available. And I feel like it's something that every woman should be able to have an opportunity to really talk with their doctor and figure out if it's right for her, and it be a possibility and not something you have to fight hard for.
Right.
And I'm very grateful to hormone therapies in general. I needed a different kind when I was younger for other situations. But, there are situations with, it's very individual with people's health, with other parts of their health where, don't always play well with hormones. And in my case, as thankful as I am for the hormone therapy I was on as a younger person, I had some issues with it things I didn't like about it. And I also have a genetic marker that doesn't play well all the time. And my doctor said I'm, in that place where let's think carefully about it, but it's not necessarily ruling it out. But for my own personal pros and cons, when I look at what is potentially at risk, if that genetic marker does its worst with hormones, that is not in my comfort zone. And that doesn't bother me as much as the symptoms that I'm having. So right now I am staying away from hormones for myself. I'm not completely counting it out. If things do get worse, I mean, I'm I guess I'm kind of midway through this journey. If things get worse, I might look at that pros and cons list and I might weigh out a little differently.
Keep your options
I'm not closing
open.
out that option. At the moment, I'm finding success with taking the edge off, with being really mindful about taking certain vitamins, making certain dietary choices. It is amazing. And I think it has to be a layer for everybody, no matter if you're doing hormones or not, that of just also being this is a time in life to be really mindful of some of the really basic things about taking care of your body, like drink enough water, do your best to get enough sleep, you exercise. Be mindful of your alcohol.
Vitamin D and vitamin B.
Magnesium.
Vitamin D and magnesium.
Is
Magnesium glycinate.
Yes. Okay.
It's really important that it's that one.
Yes, magnesium glycinate is my goat.
Yeah. Yes.
We only have a couple of minutes, but I definitely want to ask you all how you are. Each of you were very eager to talk about this, which is different than things used to be. How are you talking about it to your significant others, your children, other people in your lives? Judy, let's start with you.
I think you've met me, right? No, I'm pretty much an open book.
Really?
And we have good, healthy situations, conversations within my family, with my daughters, with my son, with my husband. And they're all like, my husband at the moment lives with 3 women. So like it's whether he likes it or not. I know. And so he's been going through someone who was going through puberty and someone who was going through perimenopause at the same time. It's been fun, y'all. Okay. But we do talk about it and I am pleased, but I feel very sorry for my mother and her generation. My mum's 83, that they had none of this. And I do think that I'm excited that Gen Z, Gen Alpha are so much more open about talking about all these things. Middle school girls are not ever getting the, ooh, yeah, why are you taking your backpack to the toilet, to the bathrooms?
Absolutely.
Like even the boys in the younger generation, I'm really pleased. So yay, Gen X parents, like talking to their children and children talking to each other.
Absolutely.
We are doing really good
This has been a
things.
really important point to me, too, that I brought up with LaTanya, that I feel like sometimes I get really frustrated as a Gen Xer about kind of the limitations that we've had as a generation on like making an impact on society. We're such a small cohort and we haven't really made an impact on politics. But on menopause,
no politics.
Menopause,
Yeah.
we are
the generation.
We are opening the doors and opening the conversation.
Yeah.
And that has been so helpful to me.
Yeah.
To absolutely know that these things are perimenopause.
Yeah.
Give people a chance to have empathy for you.
Yeah.
My children don't ask any questions anymore. When they come to see me, they have a jacket and a sweatshirt on.
Okay.
I mean, it's just they come prepared.
Yeah.
And not once has anyone ever complained because they know exactly why.
Yeah.
Well, ladies, I wish we could continue talking about this, but yay, Gen Xers finally coming into our own Carpe Diem, seize the day. We're going to keep talking about this.
Yes.
And I thank you so much for sharing your experiences. That is Nina Cardona, Lee Mayo, and Jude Mason, my lovely coworkers. And when we come back, we'll find out why menopause is having a pop culture moment. WPLN's digital editor joins the conversation, and we'll learn about the Menopause Society and hear from a couple of its certified specialists. It's changing how we talk about the change in NextAge Season 2. Stay with us. This is Nashville.
Funding for This is Nashville comes from you, our listeners. And the Osher Lifelong Learning Institute at Vanderbilt University, offering intellectual courses for adults over 50. Learn more about the wide-ranging topics and full curriculum at vanderbilt.edu/OLLI.
And Vanderbilt Health, with specialists in everyday injuries like broken arms all the way to genomics and heart transplants. Vanderbilt Health, solving the most complex problems, prepares them to solve any problem. More at whyvanderbilthealth.com.
And Tennessee State Parks with the Tennessee Golf Trail. 9 courses statewide, including 3 Jack Nicklaus-designed Bear Trace courses. Golf with views of rolling hills and Tennessee wildlife. More at tnstateparks.com.
You have an ever-growing to-do list, and updating the credit card information for your sustaining membership may have slipped your mind. Go to WPLN.org/card update and check it off your list. Peace of mind for you, funding for your public radio station.
Hey, it's criminal justice reporter Paige Flager, and you're listening to Nashville's local news and NPR station, 90.3 WPLN News.
Change, change, change. 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 Change your life. When your face is a flush and your brain's got too much, that's your moment. When your memory's shot, don't know what you forgot, that's okay. Yes, I know it seems strange, but it's part of the change that we all know.
Here comes menopause, perimenopause, right down menopause lane. You're apt to give but forgot what it is, better unwrap it again. And now you're sweating, it's upsetting, temperature doesn't seem right. You had no clue this would happen to you, perimenopause comes to light.
I am a grumpy hot potato, yes I am. A hot flush, you shush, go and open the window. Thunderbolts and lightning, don't cross me, I'm frightening. See, just a mail. All I say, oh, or you'll pay, oh. Don't delay, oh, don't you know I'm gonna blow. I'm just a poor girl with a hot body. She's just a poor girl, nauseous and clammy. Just give her chocolate and wine, let her be. Magnesium for the bones, more pills for my hormones.
Okay, we're having a lot of fun listening to that. That's a medley, as you could tell, of songs about menopause. Some of it is from Menopause, the musical, others just influencers and people on YouTube. But as you can tell, Menopause is having a moment. I'm LaTanya Turner, and this is Nashville. As you might have seen, celebrities are doing TV commercials about the change. And no wonder, in the United States, about 6,000 women enter menopause each day. That's data from the National Center for Biotechnology Information. And joining me now in the studio to talk about social media and menopause is WPLN's own digital editor, Maven, Megan Jones.
There we go.
Welcome, Megan.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
So that medley, I thought, really is reflective of what's happening a lot digitally. So what are you seeing in the digital world when it comes to menopause and perimenopause?
Yeah, I think it's a confluence of two things. The guest in your earlier segment were saying, there's an increased openness to talk about menopause, and late-stage capitalism has come in to capitalize on that. So we've seen a lot of celebrities and influencers jump into this segment to be able to have, these open conversations, a lot of humor, like the We Do Not Care Club on Instagram. Love her. Yeah. We do not care that we have on the air conditioning and the seat warmers at the same time.
And the fans.
All of it. So good. But we've also seen celebrities wade into this space as well. Halle Berry has her own company. I think that's Respin.
Yes.
Naomi Watts has Stripes. I looked up Stacey London the other day on Wikipedia as I was preparing for this segment because I knew she had something. I wasn't sure if she had a company or whatever. And she described in her bio, the last thing is midlife advocate.
Okay.
So any time that you're on Instagram, whether you're accidentally came upon some of this content and are now being fed it in the algorithm, there is no short supply of supplements, sexual health. Goop was an early entry into this category with their supplements and their whole sexuality category. So I think it's a real intersection of being able to talk about it and being able to capitalize on it a lot.
Yes.
And a lot of that is coming to us with online platforms like Evernow and all of these influencers and celebrities that we see in social media.
Well, I'm glad you're paying attention to all of those things and kind of clarifying it with us. But you're probably also paying attention because of your own experiences. So, just like the rest of your coworkers have done, share your menopause experience.
Yeah. So I think the main thing for me is that there wasn't a lot of talk about it in my household. Like, I didn't know when my mom went through menopause. I didn't know when my grandmother went through menopause. So the symptoms kind of snuck up on me to the point where I was trying everything, and I was trying to be very natural, like the black cohosh and more walking, more yoga. And it wasn't until an OBGYN in Oakland, California, whipped out her prescription pad and looked me dead in the eye and said, "I'm about to change your life."
And she wasn't talking about the change.
That's right. And so it was really welcome. But I think one thing
And what was that?
The estrogen patch is what I got. Okay. And so it was incredibly helpful. It really alleviated my symptoms. But I think one of the things that happened to me is that one of the symptoms is kind of like a removal of your filter, your internal filter. And it was actually really useful at work because all of a sudden I was able to say what I thought without fear, maybe a little rage in there. And
so you weren't
and
always
see a positive
like this?
result. That's right. Well, I don't think there were certain things, especially being a woman in tech. I've been in tech almost my entire career, which is male dominated. Mm-hmm. And so I think I was able to finally, the things that I wasn't going to say at 40 because I knew I had X and such career kind of ahead of me, with the filter removed at 47-ish, all of a sudden was like, this is going to come out anyway. And it was liberating, and I didn't have any bad consequences.
Okay.
And so it made me reflect on some of my choices prior where I'd be like, oh, I maybe could have said this thing in this meeting.
Well, thank you. And I'm so glad that you are empowered because of menopause. And I think that's happening for a lot of people as menopause and perimenopause get a lot of attention on social media and digital platforms. And even at in-person special events like a recent one here in Nashville. This is Nashville contributing editor Natasha Simjonovich was there and has this report.
Known OBGYNs and menopause specialists hates how long her own field has ignored women.
You don't know what you don't study. And so we have been so underserved. I mean, women are owed centuries of research.
Mary Claire Haver also hosts the Unpaused podcast, and her millions of online followers have helped turn her books on menopause and nutrition into bestsellers. Her latest is entitled The New Perimenopause, which she was recently promoting in Nashville. She says lack of research means medicine often pathologizes this years-long hormonal shift in women, treating it like a disease that, moreover, has no cure.
In the clinic, I do a lot of blood testing, right? Is this a vitamin D deficiency? What's her iron stores? Like, we're missing so many basic biologic things in women because we never bothered to pay attention and study or believe them.
Haver is helping fill dire information gaps to the delight of the dozens of women, many of them perimenopausal, who caught her book tour stop at the downtown Noel Hotel, including nurse practitioner Stacy Smith. She treats hormones for men and women in her new Brentwood clinic and says Haver is helping women get better all around without breaking the bank.
It doesn't matter how much a woman has. If they have extra money, we don't need to take it from them. We need to educate them on how to live this life. They want to go on a vacation. They don't want to spend their money on expensive treatments.
Haver's really into estrogen cream and recommends it well before menopause. But also nutrition, exercise, and a healthy dose of myth-busting that all things menopause are bad. They're not, says 54-year-old Jenny Kim.
I love this time of life. I think this is probably one of my favorite decades. I love this age. I just need a little help understanding, what my body's doing.
Her message to younger women?
Don't be afraid. You got to talk about it.
So you can also educate your doctor. Haver said she's learned more from her patients about menopause than she ever did in med school, including that, just like with menstruation, not all women's experiences are the same. But there is one issue she consistently hears.
Lots of sleep disruption. The girls aren't sleeping in perimenopause and postmenopause. Sleep is now a vital sign for cardiovascular disease, for dementia, for stroke, for mental health.
Haver says it can improve after the change. Granted, that's according to the only U.S. study to date on postmenopausal brain functioning and so-called brain fog.
Actually, that we see a leveling of our neurotransmitters, so a lot of that gets better. A lot of the mental health gets better in postmenopause.
Another plus, says Haver, is no more worries about unexpected pregnancy. It's a sense of freedom she shares with many of her patients.
They also are just more accepting and loving of themselves and their bodies. And I really see this resurgence of women really just going for it, with their own sexuality, where they never have before.
Haver says she's been living her best life post-menopause and wants to teach all women to do the same. For Nashville Public Radio, I'm Natasha Sinyanovich.
Thanks to Natasha for that story. And Dr. Haver was mentioned in our first segment because Lee Mayo said her work is what actually informed her to make some changes in her approach to healthcare during menopause. And of course, as you heard, not everything on the internet or with social media is true or helpful. And to help us navigate fact from fiction are two practitioners who are certified by the Menopause Society as specialists in this field. They are joining us here in the studio. Ann Ward Eshelman is a nurse practitioner at Haney Gyne. And Dr. William Lee is Associate Professor of Obstetrics and Gynecology at Vanderbilt Medical Center. Thanks to both of you for joining this conversation. And Dr. Lee, I guess I should say you are supposed to be in this show. To our listeners who may have thought it was going to be all female.
I am the only Y chromosome in the studio.
We wanted you here.
That's okay.
Because you actually, besides being a specialist, you have a very interesting backstory on how you chose to specialize in this. So tell us about it.
Well, I finished residency in 2001. I've always prescribed hormone therapy. Never did not do it. But when my own wife was having some struggles in her, I think she was around 46 or 47, she went from doctor to doctor and finally landed in a functional medicine doctor's office, and they drew lots of labs. Long story short, she one morning asked me if I thought she was in menopause. I said, well, no. I mean, you're not really having a lot of symptoms of menopause. And to my credit, she wasn't having periods because she'd had an endometrial ablation. So that's pretty important when you're trying to discern perimenopause from menopause. And so I said, come out, we'll draw your labs. And we did, and they were in the menopause range. So I went home that night and gave her a big hug and said, I'm so sorry. You're in menopause. Let's get you on some hormone therapy. And we did that, and she improved. She felt better. But I wasn't convinced she was in menopause. And to make a long story short, over the next month or two, we drew blood 2 or 3 more times. And each time, the blood work reflected that her ovaries were functioning. And so I said, I don't really need to do this with you. You need to see someone who has more experience and wisdom about this than I do. And I sent her, down the hall to somebody. And in fact, she was in perimenopause. Mm-hmm. And so the estrogen was removed because she really didn't need it at that time. And so that in 2016, 2017, I thought, if I can't figure out my own wife, who I live with, I need to learn more. And so that's what I did. I listened and read and joined the Menopause Society and became a certified menopause practitioner. And like Dr. Haver said, in the past 10 or 12 years, part of me becoming adept in this space is learning from my patients, because every woman's different. And you can't just say, we're going to put a patch on you or do this and just let them walk out the door. Every woman is individual, and it's about meeting her where she is in terms of where she is in the transition and what symptoms she's having.
Well, thank you so much for going that extra step, because we would love to see more doctors do that. And we're going to talk some about that in a moment. But Ann Ward, let's go to you. Tell us about the Menopause Society. What is that, and why are you a member?
Yeah, so I think it's just a wonderful group that really brings awareness to education of practitioners. And I think that's kind of really where the fallback has been for providers historically. As previously mentioned, our training in school on menopause was maybe one lecture at best. And we're just kind of set out into the wild to treat patients kind of a one-size-fit-all, as Dr. Lee mentioned. So the Menopause Society puts on an amazing conference every year just to bring the latest and greatest in terms of menopause care. And so I'm just really excited to be part of a group that values this ever-changing kind of field of medicine.
And it's not just for medical professionals, right? It's a resource for people like me, right? And patients.
Yeah, absolutely.
And
you can follow their content, tons of education for non-medical people as well.
Okay. What does it mean to be a certified practitioner, Dr. Lee?
Well, it's a certification offered through the Menopause Society, and it involves taking an exam, which you have to undoubtedly study for, and then you have to, on an annual basis, have and receive a certain amount of continuing medical education in the menopause, perimenopause space over, I think it's a period of 2 years. If you achieve that, you can maintain your certification.
Okay. In the first segment, you may have heard that several of the people that were on, my coworkers, were misdiagnosed. And it seems like it's often either misdiagnosed as sort of a catch-all, oh, it's menopause, or it is overdiagnosed. You're in menopause when it's really something else. So tell me what some of the common mistakes are that people make when they try to identify what's happening with women.
Well, I think it starts with not enough time with patients, and that's the world we live in the healthcare system in this country, is that we, on average, have probably on a return visit 15 minutes and with a new 30 minutes. And so in such limited time, unless you have a real interest in this, unless you feel confident enough to step into the 42-year-old woman who's having a constellation of symptoms and try to discern whether it's perimenopause, it's not even going to be addressed because so many other things are, especially in a primary care office. You would think that an OBGYN office would be a little different, and it is to some respects, but it's still, generally speaking, lacking. And I mean, we could talk about this all morning. Ann Ward and I were talking about it outside. You know, this system that we're working in rewards the more patients you see, generally the more money you make. And so that it is that way. And unfortunately, that lends itself to the perimenopausal woman being diagnosed with bipolar disorder like your colleague, or not even being asked about it, or when it's asked about, it's not really addressed because the clinician really isn't comfortable with the complaints she's having, and certainly not comfortable with what do I do with the 44-year-old woman who has difficulty sleeping and weight gain around the middle and those kinds of things.
Free-floating rage.
Rage, no. Rage is,
free-floating rage.
I hear the word rage once a week on average.
For sure. Well, and it's no wonder that people turn to social media based on what you've said and any resources they can get. Megan, and what all the chatter that's out there about this, what are some of the drawbacks to, I mean, it's great that the conversation is being normalized more, but what are some of the drawbacks to what you're seeing on social media?
I think one of the things that came up as I reflected on this is that one of the things I try to tell women younger than me is like, there's no reason to suffer. Better living through chemistry. You know, like, don't be someone who's like, oh, I'll get through this, or it's not so bad, or maybe this will go away. But I think on the flip side, thanks to late-stage capitalism, you can spend a lot of money. You can overspend yourself on a lot of things that you don't necessarily need. Multiple supplements, or hiring a personal trainer, or a menopause coach, or any of those things. I'm not saying all of those things are bad. I'm just saying that we're living in a universe where it is possible to kind of be overwhelmed with choices that come with a cost. In addition to things that might primarily address the symptoms, whether that's estrogen, progesterone, testosterone, or a combination of all of those things. And I think I used to live in Santa Fe before I moved here. And there were a lot of OBGYNs who knew a lot about hormone replacement therapy. And one of the changes that I saw when I was there was the movement to pellets. And I was like, why is this happening, this movement to pellets? But I think it's because it's a non-insurance item. That is very quick procedure. You're laughing.
That's
I don't know.
it's about money.
Right.
I mean, you say it. It's about money. The pellet industry. I call it the pill mill of the 2020s. In the early 2000s, we had the pill mills in Appalachia with the opioids.
Yes.
The pill mill of the 2020s are the hormone sitters that are putting in pellets. And for anybody listening, that's fine. I'll give you my email. You can email me. I mean,
Let's chat about it.
Yeah.
Okay, and what is it? Describe what it is.
They're like a grain of rice, and they're basically injected into the buttocks area, and they're either estradiol or testosterone. Neither is FDA approved. There's no studies behind them with safety, and as far as efficacy, they work to an extent because what happens is the women that are going to these places are desperate because they're not seeing someone like Ann Ward or someone who is comfortable prescribing hormone therapy. And if they're in menopause, they feel a lot better because they're getting hormones. The problem is that the level of hormones that are being achieved with the pellets are supraphysiologic. They're higher than a woman's ever seen. And more doesn't always mean better. And in fact, and I'm sure Ann Ward has seen this, is it can lead to abnormal bleeding and at worst, uterine cancer.
Okay.
I mean, they're not good. I mean, it's a soapbox that I like to get on.
Okay. Well, I'm glad you're enlightening me about this. We're going to have to take a break, though, right now. We can talk some more about treatments when we come back. But Megan is signing out of the conversation. Ann Ward and Dr. Lee are staying with us for more insight and guidance on menopause and perimenopause as we continue this episode of NextAge Season 2. Bye-bye, Megan.
Funding for This Is Nashville comes from you, our listeners, and the Higgins Firm, assisting clients with nursing home neglect and serious personal injury cases. Online at thehigginsfirm.com. And Amazon, proud sponsor of WPLN's daily show, This Is Nashville, engaging our differences so we can discover our unity. More on Amazon's community work at aboutamazon.com.
One of the most powerful institutions in Cuba is kept largely hidden from public view. It goes by the acronym GAESA. It's run by the military and controls many levers of the Cuban economy: banks, seaports, hotels, and several major businesses. We dive into just what GAESA is and why it has become a focal point in relations between the U.S. and Cuba. Next time on The World.
This afternoon at 2 on 90.3 WPLN News.
I'm LaTanya Turner, and this is Nashville. We're wrapping up our talk about menopause and perimenopause, trying to normalize the conversation and get rid of misinformation and myths. Still here in the studio with me are Ann Ward Eshelman, nurse practitioner at Haney Gyne, and Dr. William Lee, associate professor of obstetrics and gynecology at Vanderbilt Medical Center. So we were talking about hormone therapy in the last break. What is next along with that for helping women navigate this journey through menopause?
In terms of treatment under the guise of hormone therapy?
Yes.
Well, to me, it starts with figuring out if a woman is in perimenopause or menopause, and then based on the symptoms directs the treatments. And an easy patient to talk about would be one who's undoubtedly in menopause, meaning no periods for 12 consecutive months, not attributed to something else other than menopause. And we start with estrogen because we have decades of women using estrogen, lots of studies, and there's estradiol and there's conjugated estrogens. Basically, there are two categories. And under estrogen or estradiol, there's oral, There's non-oral, which is a patch, a gel, and even a vaginal ring that can be placed and used for 3 months at a time. And then if a woman has a uterus, she also needs to be on a progestin, which most commonly is progesterone, which is an oral pill. So when a woman talks about, I'm on hormone therapy because I'm in menopause, it's almost always estrogen and a progestin. And there's lots of combinations of how to do that.
And Mort, what is the status of research and learning new ways of addressing this and helping medical practitioners who aren't certified or a part of the Menopause Society learn how to better treat women at this stage of life?
Sure. Yeah, I think it's a really exciting time. As you said, menopause is having a moment, thank goodness. And so women are finally being included in studies. And so we have a lot of new treatments that have come out and are in the pipeline. I can think of one specifically that actually works on the brain and is a great option for women who maybe don't respond well to the typical estrogen progesterone therapy, or if they have other medical conditions that kind of put them at a higher risk for using these modalities. So I think, kind of what I explain to patients, we can't see this as a one-size-fits-all. We have tons of options in terms of their delivery, their mechanism of action. So we really just have to delve into, what is the patient's lifestyle? What's their past medical history? What are they going to be most comfortable using? Are they going to be comfortable placing a vaginal ring? Are they doing hot yoga 5 days a week, and so maybe a transdermal patch isn't going to stick as well? So I think it's just, continuing the conversation, funding the research, and.
What do you say to people who are listening? Because you mentioned how managed care and the way things are in the medical system limit time.
Sure.
Well, how can women best advocate for themselves? Either of you.
Yeah, I think understanding how the medical system works. So I think one thing I see frequently is a patient will come in, they've waited all year for an annual exam, and they come in and they have their list of issues. So just understanding the annual exam is a breast exam, a pelvic exam, and all of the tests that come with your age group for your preventative care.
The blood work,
right?
The labs.
Right, colonoscopies, mammograms, things like that. That isn't the best time to bring up these issues because, as Dr. Lee has discussed, we're in a time crunch, unfortunately. So I think a really good option for patients is to make a specific appointment to discuss hormones or menopause care. They need a problem visit, so we can dedicate that entire 15 or 30 minutes to talking about your hormones, not trying to, check everything off that we have to for insurance reasons, but really giving the patient the time to focus on the issue at hand.
Wow, that's a great tip. I hadn't really thought of it that way. Dr. Lee, do you have anything to add to that about how women can advocate for themselves?
No, I think what Ann Ward said is a great point. It is difficult at an annual exam visit unless, again, you're like Ann Ward and myself who actually step into the conversation without being prompted. Often, if I've got a 49-year-old like I had yesterday for an annual well-woman visit, she was having regular periods, and I asked her, are you having any symptoms that may be attributed to perimenopause? And she said, what do you mean? And I listed off some. And she said, basically, no. I said, well, good news, you're not. But every year I'm going to ask you if you have symptoms between now and when I see you next year, message me or come in. And I think it is about, if it's not being brought up and you're in middle age, then feel free as a woman to just tell your clinician, I've noticed that I'm waking up probably 4 or 5 nights a week now at 3 a.m. And if there's no good reason, that's one of the early signs, for example, of perimenopause.
Okay. What about choosing a healthcare professional? Any advice on how a person can choose a healthcare professional that is tuned in to these issues?
Well, that's it's a little bit of a loaded question because you don't, as someone who has seen a physician last week for a problem, you're really trusting when you go in. And I think that, how do I answer this? I think that reviews are pretty good. You have to take them with a grain of salt. They're kind of like restaurant reviews. I don't review a restaurant if it's really, really good, but I certainly will go on a Yelp if I had a roach in my, macaroni and cheese. But I think reviews are helpful. I think word of mouth. I think at the end of the day, the biggest referral that I have in my practice is women telling other women that you need to go see this person. So I think asking your colleagues, friends, family, do you have a good OBGYN or nurse practitioner in the women's health space? Primary care physicians, for the most part, don't do a lot of GYN care. However, there are some who like it or interested in it, and they do it. And then lastly, the menopause.org, which is the Menopause Society's website, is very easy to navigate down into as a patient to find a certified menopause practitioner. You put in your zip code within 50 or 200 miles, and up pops a list. And it's grown over the past 10 years. I think in Nashville, there were probably only about 8 or 9 of us 10 years ago. I haven't looked in about 6 months, but last time I looked, there were probably 15 to 16 certified practitioners. Now, that doesn't always mean they're doing a lot of this. Sometimes they just get the certification because they need to get CME, but...
Well, and you mentioned primary care and the Menopause Society certification. So is it about it's not really about looking for a certain specialty, it sounds like. What do you think, Ann Ward?
Yes and no. I would say gynecologists are best suited to discuss this topic. It's just within our realm of, what we're prescribing, but certainly there are other providers it's well within their means to do so. Would you say?
Yeah, I would agree. I think that you start with an OBGYN specialty.
Okay, that's good advice. You all have been so helpful in helping us to understand some of the misinformation and disinformation that's out there. And again, Dr. Lee, thank you for stepping out of your comfort zone maybe, or your lane, and advocating for more information among doctors so that they can better help women. Thanks for tuning in this hour. This is Nashville is a production of Nashville Public Radio. NextAge Season 2 is made possible by BlueCross BlueShield of Tennessee and the West End Home Foundation, advancing aging with dignity and strengthening communities. Make plans to join us tomorrow for a special call-in show where you can ask questions about any of the topics covered in our NextAge Season 2 series. All our NextAge episodes are at thisisnashville.org. You can also listen in our podcast feed or watch them at youtube.com/@WPLN. You can also find us on Instagram. Today's episode was produced by yours truly. It was directed by Tasha A.F. Limley. Natasha Sinyanovich is the contributing editor for this series. Tasha A.F. Limley is our managing editor, and our board operator is Liv Lombardi. I'm LaTanya Turner. Go and make it a great day.
Summertime means thousands of kids may lose access to school meals, leaving parents struggling to provide. Families depend on these meals, especially with record high costs of living. Second Harvest Food Bank of Middle Tennessee hopes to make this a hunger-free summer for local children in need. Learn more about how to help fight childhood hunger online at secondharvestmidtn.org.